On today's show,
we discuss Ty Lue being named the East All-Star coach and who's missing from the Rising Stars rosters.
we'll see Shaq's forthcoming statue and how Greg Popovich has taken intentional fouling to another level.
And which way to the beach? We've got a brand new edition of the meme team.
It's Thursday, January 28th. The starter starts now.
Good evening, sweet world, and welcome to the starters. Whether you're listening to the podcast or joining us on NBA TV and or YouTube, we're happy to have you. I'm J.E. Skeets, and alongside me, as always, is Tess Mellis.
Happy 39th birthday plus 2 days, Vince Carter.
To his right, it's the international man of mystery taking it to the max, Lee Ellis.
Friend.
Lele.
And last, certainly not least, surfing those sweet internet waves, starters blog editor, Trey Kirby.
Hey-o!
Hey, yo! Trey, what's going on tonight?
Well, I'm here at the internet looking for your best tweets at #TheStarters, and y'all might have seen this, but Matthew Dellavedova recently partnered with the Cleveland Coffee Company on a special bag of beans called G'day, Mate. It's available only in certain retailers in the Cleveland area, but it turns out he's not the only NBA Australian who's locking down endorsement deals. Our own Lee Ellis has also become a marketer's dream as companies are taking his weird sayings and turning them into products. While you're at the store, grab a package of temporary dadoos. And while you're there, make sure you grab a pack of friendship bracelets for your kids. But before you leave, make sure you holler at a pair of Have a Squeeze reading glasses. Perfect for when you need to see something with your thumbs. Anyways, this is where you at home come in. Let us know what other products you'd like to see Lee Ellis endorse. Not just bananas, people. Stretch yourselves a little bit, please. Send us your best answers at #TheStarters. We'll hear from you a bit later.
All right, great
All those
stuff.
weird photos you've got on your computer will one day coming to.
That's why I
You're
save
waiting for
them,
this
Lee.
day.
Oh, man. All right, we got a fun show for you tonight. We're actually going to start with a little fill in the blank. It's been a while since we've done this. Our first one, guys, just 3 games in, and Tyronn Lue is already an all-star coach. That's how good he is, I guess. The NBA announced on Wednesday that the brand new Cavaliers head coach will lead the Eastern Conference All-Star team in Toronto next month. Lue, of course, replaced David Blatt as head coach of the Cavs on Friday, and he has a stellar 2-1 record. So
It's not bad.
It's not bad. Fill in the blank task. Tyronn Lue coaching the East All-Stars is what?
It's the wrong choice by the league. Already this soon, he hasn't even coached an NBA team, but now he's coaching All-Stars. It should be Dwayne Casey at that 2 spot.
I agree.
And the precedent was just set in the Western Conference for the 2nd seed to be the head coach of the All-Star team. Greg Popovich was just named the head coach. I thought this was the perfect opportunity to name Dwayne Casey the head coach. And I understand this is extenuating circumstances. Usually the best team doesn't fire their head coach, but you award the 2nd best team in the West. Why not in the East? Luke Walton has the best record in the Western Conference. He doesn't get to coach. Tyronn Lue should not either.
You agree with this, Lee?
Yeah, I think you want to earn an award like this and an honor like this. And I think even Tyronn Lue feels that he hasn't actually earned this achievement. I think this is David Blatt's work. And because he even said that he thinks David Blatt should coach. Now, I didn't expect
Well,
that
that's
was
not gonna happen,
Yeah,
right.
that was going to happen. But I don't think anyone in the NBA family, coaches, players, administrators, would be upset if Dwayne Casey was naturally slotted into that role. Because, again, Tyronn Lue, he's just starting his head coaching career. He's only had coached 3 games. I don't think he really feels that he's had he's earned this award and he needs to go out there and coach them.
Yeah, by the time we get to the All-Star game, I think Lue will have coached, in theory, 11 games. That would obviously be the fewest in NBA history for a coach to take over as an All-Star head coach. I'm with you guys. I mean, I guess the adjective I would use is almost confusing. It's almost like so easy. The game is in Toronto that in the end they didn't decide to let Dwayne Casey, the Raps head coach, take over. I mean, it's just a natural opportunity to promote the Raps even more. And it's not like we're talking the Cavs are 10, 15, whatever games up on the Raps. They're right there as well. I'm with both of you. Seems a little shocking in the end that they go with Lue. It almost just upset people more than anything.
Yeah.
When if they had announced Casey, I think people would have been like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right.
I wonder
let's-
if Lue will do what Vince Carter did to Michael Jordan and maybe step aside and allow him to
I
coach.
have a feeling that's not going to happen. Let's hear from you guys with all of these, by the way. Jump on Twitter, #TheStars. All right, our next one, the rosters for the NBA's Rising Stars Challenge. They were released yesterday. The game takes place on Friday night of All-Star Weekend. Features your top rookies and sophomores on 2 squads. Here's a look at the U.S. team roster. See some big names in there. Jabari Parker, Nerlens Noel. Versus Team World. Some other great names. You can see them there. So we've got 20 guys overall. Again, rookies and sophomores. This one led by Kristaps Porzingis. I would think we all agree with that. The Latvian unicorn. So there's the rosters. 20 guys, good names, no doubt, but people love to do this. Fill in the blank, Lee. We'll start with you here. The biggest Rising Stars snub is who? Who didn't make this list that should have?
Devin Booker from the Phoenix Suns. He's had a very good season, but he's had a really good January. He's second in scoring at 17 points a game. But I think he's probably suffering a little bit from the fact that the Suns have had such a bad season. Now, that shouldn't come into it because most rookies and sophomores are on teams that are up and coming, so they've got
That
bad
shouldn't
records.
matter at
I know.
all.
And he's up to playing 33 minutes a night, leading rookies in the month of January. So I just think that could possibly be the only reason why he was overlooked, because he's shooting the ball well. He's a very good player. And again, as I say, he's had a fantastic January, but I think maybe they just sort of, the voting staff thought he hasn't had a great all-round year.
I was shocked that he wasn't on it. In fact, I saw the rosters. I sort of just glossed over them when they were released yesterday, and I just assumed he was on there until I looked at him again. I said, where is Devin Booker? This guy would have been my Rising Stars MVP in this game, and I'm not kidding. I remember Boobie Gibson a couple years ago. He caught fire off the bench, hit like 11 threes, won MVP. There's no doubt Devin Booker in a game like this could have done that, showed off his shooting and his range. So I was surprised. What about you, Trey? Is there someone you're shocked that didn't make this squad?
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I've got Boban fever, which is why I want Boban Marjanovic in the Rising Stars game, and I want him really in there on the Jeremy Lin exception. You remember Jeremy Lin didn't actually make the Rising Stars game when he was having Linsanity, but 2 extra spots were added just because he was the biggest story in the world.
Right.
And if you look at Boban Marjanovic, he is literally the biggest story in the NBA right now. Boban fever, of course, people, is easy to diagnose by swelling of the hands. Nonetheless, I do think that he didn't play much through the end of November, but since then, minutes have gone up, and people would like to see it.
That's true. People would love to see him there.
Instead of talking about players who aren't in the game, let's talk about players who are in the game. And I think the league is onto something with this U.S. versus World format. This is only year 2 of the format. Last year it was sort of born because all the rookies were out. Seemingly they went to this move because you couldn't put the rookies versus the sophomores. But now you look at these 2 teams here, and is the U.S. team just too stacked with everyone healthy this season? They've got some incredible rookies, and Karl Anthony Towns and Jahlil Okafor leading the way. But up against that world team roster, you mentioned Porzingis, sure, but I think Andrew Wiggins is the leader of this team as the MVP of this game last year. And Emmanuel Mudiay is going to have to lead the way, because from either team, I think he is the best point guard. He can get into the paint whenever he wants, so that team is a little bit top-heavy, the world team. The U.S. team a little bit more balanced, but it's going to be on Emmanuel Mudiay and Andrew Wiggins to lead the way. And on this Friday night, we might have Zach LaVine on this U.S. team roster get to the rim because, you know, these young guys, they sort of model themselves after the big game. They don't play a ton of defense. Zach LaVine can get to the rim whenever he wants. This is a much more confident Zach LaVine. This is a very different guy than he was last year, who had barely played going into February of his first year. This is a new guy. I think it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a great game.
I think you're right, though. The U.S. team is just too stacked because guys like Julius Randle, a lot of people are confused why he's not on it. Justice Winslow not on it. They just have almost too many guys at this point. All right, our next one, the San Antonio Spurs, guys. They took Haka-whoever to a whole new level last night versus the Rockets. Coach Pop had the Spurs. They took advantage of a loophole in the league's rule book. They intentionally fouled Rockets forward Clint Capella while he was standing out of bounds trying to inbound the ball. We hadn't seen this one yet. Taz, fill in the blank. Popovich's new Haka strategy is what?
It's not a strategy at all. First, I think it's illegal.
No, apparently it's not.
It's a delay of game. That's a delay of game.
No, it's not. If you don't hit the ball, apparently it's not.
No, it's still a delay of game. It's just like when a
That's
guy.
what they said.
Just when a guy goes to inbound, we've seen it for years, and you want to kind of just see what the form of their play is going to happen. So you just kind of step out of bounds and just get in the way. It's a delay of game. Second, I don't think he actually wanted him to foul either. I think Danny Green just did it on his own.
Really?
Yeah.
You can see Pop clapping after it.
Well, he was just.
I think this is meditated.
He was
I
waiting.
think
He
they thought
was
this
waiting
through.
until it was just. It was an intentional foul, waiting for him to come in.
Either way, he's going to force the league to change the rules
You're
because
right.
he's now making a mockery of it. It used to be a tactic where you'd say, okay, hack a guy, go to the free throw line. But now if he's going to do stuff like that, the league is going to be embarrassed by it, and they are going to change the rules, I believe.
It's not just Pop, too. I mean,
Yeah.
Again, these little loopholes, now you're seeing, we saw it again last night. Nerlens Noel jumped on Andre Drummond's back in a free throw setup type of move to intentionally foul him without intentionally foul him, if that makes sense.
Andre
I'm
Drummond
with you, Lee.
helped him out,
If anything, this is brilliant, Pop's new strategy here, because it brings...
I think the referee just made a mistake.
It
He shouldn't have called a foul. It was a delay of game, which leads to technical free throw.
They told the broadcast that if you do not hit the ball out of the guy's hands when he's out of bounds, that it's
Just a
actually
foul,
not
yeah.
a delay game.
We've been watching basketball for a billion years. When a guy steps out of bounds because they want to see the formation of a play, that's a delay of game.
It's a tech in the last 2 minutes, and it's a delay of game then. But I agree, it probably should be a delay of game. But I do like seeing the innovation with these fouls. People are trying to find new and better ways to foul. You're not safe anywhere anymore.
And look, a lot of people continue to say, oh, only 2 or 3 of these guys get fouled, intentionally fouled. Why would we change the rules? That's not true. Amir Johnson also got hacked last night, became the 27th player this season in the intentional fouling. They're going to change
We'd have
it.
nothing to talk
They're gonna
about. We'd have nothing to
absolutely
talk
change
about if it wasn't intentional
Popovich has
fouls.
admitted that he hates it. He thinks that it's an ugly look, but he uses it to exploit it to his full advantage.
All right. Well, final one here. Shaquille O'Neal, he thought he was doing a standard appearance on the Jimmy Kimmel Show last night until the late night TV hosts had a little bit of surprise for him. Check this out.
You see what this is right now, what I'm showing you?
Yes.
This is, and you don't know about this is a surprise to you. The Lakers asked me to mention it. This is the statue of you they're putting up at the Staples Center. Seriously, I swear to God. It's not a prank. I swear to God. That's it. That's what it's going to look like.
All right, so you see it there. The big fella,
Yeah.
shocked absolutely by Jimmy Kimmel there. Fill in the blank, Tass. Your first impression of the Shaq statue is what?
It's perfect. We've seen it before, not only on the court when he throws it down, but also the Reebok logo looks exactly like this. That famous Shaq logo, and you can actually see it on the bottom of his shoes. It's basically a little bit of meta here. It's the same formation, basically, as he has thrown it down. It's perfect. I think this is what you think of when you think of a Shaq statue, or maybe, him running down the floor after throwing down the alley-oop from Kobe against Portland. Those are the 2 things I think of. I think that's perfect.
That one's more iconic. I think the Lakers have got it 100% right.
I agree. I think that looks incredible.
Yeah.
Shaq's actually going to be joining the Game Time crew at 6:30 tonight to discuss his thoughts on being surprised, I'm sure, and of course the statue itself. So check that out.
You
here
couldn't
on
do the Portland alley-oop. I mean, that's just his face.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right, we got to take a break. When we return, it's Throwback Thursday, featuring one of the 90s best shooters. Come on back. You're watching The Starters. Welcome back to The Starters. Trey wanted to know what other products should Lee Ellis endorse, and you have hit him up on Twitter using the hashtag #TheStarters. Trey, got some answers.
Some brilliant answers. The first comes to us from NHL All-Star John Scott, who says, Fizz! Sugarless pop that you pass to your friends.
Smart, very
Sounds
smart.
very smart. Doug Schomer says, I'd buy 8 Toes Performance stocks if they were brought to us by Lee Ellis. Don't make me bring the picture back. And finally, Tom Dean says, how about endorsing some very solid clay? And even came with a product shot.
Wow.
Great ideas.
Major seller for sure.
Keep the tweets coming. What other products should Lee Ellis endorse? All right, guys, it's Thursday. It's one of our favorite segments here of the week. NBA Throwback Thursday, our player today, it's Glenn Rice, the 90s sharpshooter. That was Glenn Rice. Shout out to basketballjerseyworld.com for the sick Rice Heat jersey there. Rice's resume, 3 All-Star appearances, 1 in which he won MVP, 2 All-NBA nods. He racked up over 18,000 points. He's around 63rd in the NBA's all-time scoring list. He's top 20 for three-point field goals made, and he averaged 40% from 3 in his career. First question, when you think of Glenn Rice, do you think of him as a Heat player in his early years, sort of those All-Star years with the Hornets, or maybe even the year where he won the championship with the Lakers? Which Rice comes to mind first?
For me, it's the Miami Heat, because I remember him getting drafted and I'm playing that first year and becoming a scorer straight
And
away.
you're old.
You're old, yeah.
And I'm
you're
old,
old.
but I also actually remember from his college days, Michigan against Seton Hall, because Andrew Gaze played in that final, and Glenn Rice was awesome in that game. But
You're the one who named that graphic there, Rice, Baby, because you're old.
no, but he has that iconic shot, that long,
Yes.
sort of that tall release, that high release that made it difficult for people to block it for a 6'8" small forward. I talked to his former teammate Steve Smith, our colleague here before, and he said a lot of people think of him as a shooter, but he was also a scorer, a guy who could really get inside and post up his opponent and get to the lane and do it easily. And one of those guys who was really lethal from outside, lethal in transition, and a very memorable player from the early 90s.
You do go with the Heat, though I think a lot of people would pick the Hornets years, Glenn Rice, because that were his best years. Those 3 years, an All-Star all 3 times. That's the year he won the MVP. That's when he was 5th in MVP voting in 97, one of those years with the Hornets. I mean, this is the apex of his career.
He still is the all-time Hornets leader in minutes per game and points per game. So yeah, you're right. 3 seasons, 3 All-Star seasons, and he was on fire for basically all of them.
Well, for his first 10 years, he was a very consistent scorer. You know, touched on eliteness there, as you mentioned, with the MVP voting. And then as his sort of career got on, he wasn't the main man, but he was still a very effective player, especially on that Lakers team that won the
championship. A lot of people don't think
in
the
2000.
Lakers win that title without Glenn Rice in the mix there, helping them out. All right, here's the tough question. Is Glenn Rice a Hall of Famer? What do you think? You look at his numbers. I gave you the resume. Does he have enough to get into the Hall of Fame?
I don't think so. I mean,
No,
the fact
just
that
short?
you push the All-Star MVP is sort of indicative that he's below that threshold. I think Mitch Richmond is kind of that threshold, and Mitch Richmond's accolades are actually higher than Glenn Rice. I know Glenn Rice did get a championship. Well, I mean, 5 All-NBAs for Mitch Richmond, only 2 for Glenn Rice, 6 All-Star appearances for Mitch Richmond, 3 for Glenn Rice. I think those are indicative of what kind of player Mitch Richmond was, and I think that is the threshold. You can't just keep going lower and lower and lower with this Hall of Fame, or else you're going to include everybody. The college game is what, I understand the college game as an argument.
Yeah,
but I have to go on the NBA career and the NBA career only, because I don't really know his college game, number one. And number two, it's just so difficult to, how do you weigh out each of those elements?
I think he's in. I think he's got enough credentials to get in there because of the All-NBA, because of the All-Star games, and because of the college championship. A good, consistent scorer for a lot of years in the NBA.
Played 15 years.
Yeah,
He has
and
the
for 10
longevity.
years he averaged basically 20 or more a game.
He is only in, I agree with Ted, he's only in if they really do sort of equally weigh his college career, where he was dominant. You know, the Final Four most outstanding player and the title. Has a title in the NCAA, a title in the NBA as well, so that's going to help him there. All right, here's a fun question we always do, though. Who's the modern day version of Glenn Rice? Does anyone come to mind? Trey, who comes to mind for you?
A guy that comes to mind for me is Klay Thompson, because just like Glenn Rice, he's kind of a bigger guy for a wing. He's, both about 6'8". They both got the stroke, really, and they're both just mostly shooters, I would say. They're not really creating a ton off the dribble, though they can both put the ball on the ground, score in the post. And Klay is kind of what I think Glenn Rice would be today, because Klay takes more threes, the long twos are kind of out of there. I think with the whole analytical movement, all the Glenn Rice, 20-footers would be 25-footers that probably would still be money and get him more points.
Who do you think, Lee?
Another guy with a smooth stroke is Bradley Beal for me. I think he's got a very similar game to Glenn Rice. I think as well, he can get inside, he can post up his opponent, but just that smooth stroke from outside, I think this is just what we saw from Glenn Rice, especially in his early days in the NBA.
Well, for the first time ever, we actually have an answer from the guy himself. Lee tweeting Glenn Rice just before the show. Hey, Glenn Rice, who do you think's the modern day version of you? Glenn Rice himself writes back to Lee, I would have to say Klay Thompson, Trey, but I posted up more. We have unlimited range, and I believe he is also 6'8".
Yeah, thanks.
So, Glenn Rice
adds up.
has had his say. Let's hear from you guys. Jump on Twitter, #TheStarters. Who do you think is the modern day version of Glenn Rice? Let us know. We got to take a break. Lots more still to come on The Starters tonight. When we return, the kids love the meme team test. They love it. That and a whole lot more. You're watching The Starters. Back with The Starters. We asked you before the break, hey, who is the modern day Glenn Rice? Trey, you got a few answers.
Yeah, Dan says Carmelo, and Rice's Venn diagram is pretty fat in the middle, not bad. Mike Dunleavy Jr. in his younger years? Sure, why not? Vimalon says no one quite fits the mold, but Kawhi, Paul George, and Gallinari are probably as close as you can get. A lot of Gallinari answers, which I don't mind, actually. And a vegan says Glenn Quinoa, duh. I'm sorry. You are sorry, man.
Get out of here. Get out of here. All right. Every Thursday,
You
guys.
went too far,
We scour the internet to bring you the meme team, our favorite weird and wacky moments from the past 7 days. This week's Starting 5.
At number 5, Kobe has some old man swag. Strolling down the bench, he says, hey, Larry Nance, get out of there. I got to sit down. The old knees need a rest. Get up.
Looks great in that suit.
Okay. That wasn't
Man,
really
it's a great suit.
That wasn't really part of the number 5, but hey, he looks great in that suit.
I like it. Pulling rank. Played with your dad, man.
Yep, that's
Respect the elders. I like it.
Okay.
On Monday, Kanye West tweeted a handwritten track list for his highly anticipated album, Swish. The very next night, though, Yeezy goes back to Twitter to announce that Swish would now be called, Waves. Well, on Wednesday, the Kings literally took a page out of Kanye's book, tweeting this, a list of DeMarcus Cousins' accomplishments. Sacramento Kings Twitter account is gold.
At number 3, the story of Braden Neubauer. Spurs fan and writer for Spurs blog, Pounding the Rock, tweeted that if he got 12,000 retweets, he'd get some Kawhi-like cornrows, and it happened. Now, he has 1,600 followers, so it wasn't going to happen without some help, and that's where the Spurs Twitter account and Spurs Nation on Twitter did their part, giving his tweet some serious push to get his hair some serious pull. They look great.
Looks amazing. At number 2, this young LeBron fan goes crazy for a Cavaliers transition bucket. Bonkers. Now, he either just loves fast break basketball or he's all hopped up on sweet tarts and Fun Dip right now. 'Cause, oh man, he's loving it. Reminds us a little bit of this gentleman, 2011, Jubilation in Newark. He's loving the life after D. Will hits a 3.
I wouldn't want to see him smack his chest, though.
Hey, maybe they're related somehow. I'm not sure.
At number 1, Spurs Boban Marjanovic holds things, including this reporter's hand that disappears.
Where is it?
He held this woman's hand quite delicately. The man has got hand talents, obviously, clasping his hands around a Christmas tree here. His arm around Spurs teammate Ray McCallum. That hand is as big as Ray's head. And a jug of Bush's Chicken sweet tea. That's a gallon of tea.
Oh my goodness.
4 liters of tea, basically. Does not look like a jug of tea in that man's hand.
That was really the best Reddit thread in a while there. Bobin holding things. All right, I gotta take one more break. When we come back, very solid play. Back with the starters, we all had the Jazz last night. We were all correct. Tonight, we all say the Kings beat the Pelicans. We'll find out 8 p.m. That one's on League Pass. In about an hour, we find out who the All-Star reserves are. They are officially announced on TNT, followed by the Knicks and Raptors. Raps going for their 10th straight win. Can you believe it? And the Bulls-Lakers is the nightcap. Lily, where are we going, my man, for a very solid play of the night?
We're going to Boston for a gentle boomerang from Evan Turner. He starts it off, and there it is Marcus Smart finding him underneath. Beautiful pass. Evan, there you see, starts it. Crowder, Smart, Evan, beautiful. That's what I call a very solid play.
Excellent. Lee, I think we have a little bit of time to get into some fan signs that we didn't get to on yesterday's show.
Yes, we do. The first one comes in from Justin and Jenny Verley celebrating Australia Day. Again, Skeets, they're not at a game, but they're in Australia, so it's a little difficult. Great
Congrats
sign.
on the TV.
Great sign. Hayden Silkinson in Houston sent in this one. Really good job. And Shannon was deep inside the queue. Another great starter sign there last night. Sent that in. Thanks, everyone. They'll be on Facebook. Keep sending them in.
All right. Keep those signs coming. Guys, we're getting excited for All-Star Weekend, February 8th to 14th. We're up in Toronto all week long. We're going to have a blast. Yes, we'll be wearing that all week long as well. Thanks for joining us tonight. Back tomorrow.
Thanks for joining us, folks. And remember, it's time to hear who's being named to the All-Star game.
Brace the night, people.